Today we're going to compare two very similar lights. This is the brand new Zhiyun CX100 from their new Cinepeer line, and then this one right here is the X100 from their Molus line. So let's talk about their differences and why you might choose one over the other. It's important for you to know that this is a sponsored review comparison. If you want to know how that works, I've put all the information down in the description, but in short, I'm not paid to say anything. I get to say whatever I want, and Zhiyun is seeing this video when you are seeing it. Let's start with what you get when you purchase either of these lights. With the X100, I have the combo kit, and with the CX100, I have the standard kit. We'll talk more about some of those details in just a second. So starting with the X100, of course, you get the light, you get a mini reflector, you get power cables, you get like a little mesh bag to hold the power cables onto the light stand so that they don't just dangle. You get a little lanyard thing. There's a Bowens mount adapter, and then finally a case for everything to go inside. Now, for the CX100, what you get when you purchase this light is you've got the light, you get the reflector, a silicone diffuser, a USB-C cable for powering, and it doesn't come with a case. Everything comes inside of a cardboard box that you can reuse as a way to store the light if you'd like. Like I said, this is the standard kit for the CX100. If you want to get a wall plug and a Bowens mount adapter, things that are kind of useful to have in my opinion, then you'll have to spend a little bit more money. So let's talk about the features, because this is where the biggest differences are. The X100 is dimmable from 0 to 100%, has a Kelvin temperature of 2700 to 6500. It has a detachable battery with a battery indicator. You can power it with the detachable battery or via USB-C or DC power. There are two quarter 20 mounts on the bottom. This light also has a microphone for music mode, as well as the ability to turn studio mode on or off. This light is controllable from the light itself or via Bluetooth with the app. It does have a proprietary mount, however, the Bowens mount adapter allows you to use it with any Bowens mount accessories. For the CX100, you've got a lot of the same things. You've got 0 to 100% power, which we'll talk about that in just a second. It is bicolor from 27 to 6500 Kelvin. It's got two quarter 20 mounts on the bottom. You can power it via USB-C or a wall plug. So what the CX100 lacks that the X100 has is Bluetooth. So can't control it via an app, it's just the dials on the light. The battery is not detachable like the X100 is. Even though it looks like it, it does not have a music mode. They just use the same body chip and pretty much everything that the X100 has. It also doesn't have a screen to indicate the power or settings that you have it at. And it also does not have the ability to have studio mode, which the X100 does have. Now, the reason why it's so cheap is because they removed all of these features, obviously, but they also made the build quality a lot cheaper too. It's made out of more plastic pieces rather than aluminum, and so it is a lighter weight light. The X100 is significantly heavier. Overall, the build quality is, is all right. It's not amazing by any stretch of the imagination, especially since I've had the X100 longer. And so the quality on that, when I got this light, the CX100, I was like, wow, okay, it's really cheap. It might not be as durable, but I think it will hold up. It's got, at least some quality to it. Now, probably what you care about most is, do they actually have the same output? They're both 100-watt lights. They're using the same chip, the same body, the same everything. It's almost the same light, to be honest with you. So I did some readings with my spectrometer just to check. There are some slight differences, but for the most part, they're both fairly accurate, and that they both have very similar numbers. But here you go, you can see for yourself. Real quick, let's talk about hot swapping. So if you have the power cables plugged into the unit and you want to put the battery on and then have it just continue being used, maybe for some reason you wanted to swap like that, it does not work. As soon as you pull that power plug out, the light will just turn off. However, if you run off of battery and then you put the power cable into the light, then it actually will work. On the CX100, it's a bit different since the battery's not detachable, but you can put in the wall plug power supply and it will take a moment, it turns off and then comes back on. Same for if you remove the power supply, and then it will switch off, go to battery power, turn on. All right, so now let's talk about some of the pros, cons, issues that I've come across with using these lights and testing them out. Starting with the CX100, biggest con for me, especially when I first got it, was that there is no distinct way to know exactly what the light is set at. You won't know the exact percentage, you won't know the exact color temp. Basically, you're eyeballing it and then using these rough numbers on the side to get it close enough. Now, while I was doing the light readings, I was testing to see how close I could get it based on these dial indicators, just to see how accurate these indicators are. And they are fairly accurate, but it's so hard to know if you are being accurate because of this weird system of trying to line it up. Honestly, the littlest tweak can change it by a few hundred Kelvin. And so it's not really the most precise way to work with a light. Clearly, with this new line, the CX100 line, it is geared towards more, I'll say, beginners or people who don't care about the pro features. I don't think it's terrible, obviously. I'm used to pro features being in every light. You know exactly the color temp, you know exactly the percentage it's set at, so that way everything can be as close to accurate as possible. But I do think, since this style of light is designed for more running gun situations, seeing as it's more of a handheld battery operated 100-watt light, I don't see that being a huge con, even though it is frustrating if you come from a more professional lighting setup already. If you don't, this is fine. You'll be totally okay with it, I think, and you'll just eyeball it and change your camera settings accordingly if it doesn't look quite right. I think one of the weird, it could be a pro, it could be a con, is that the battery is attached to this light. I think it's great because obviously you're not going to lose it. It's going to work properly. However, it is a bit of a disadvantage because if anything ever goes wrong, that battery can't be removed and replaced. And that's why I think it's great that you do have the option to power it 2 different ways. It's a bit sad that the standard kit didn't come with the wall plug to plug it in for power that way. You do have to get the kit up from this one and pay like $100 more. However, I understand then that the price is $300 for the Bowens mount, for the wall plug. However, it is worth noting that Zhiyun did allow me to have a discount code that I can give out to y'all down in the description that you can use, I think for a few weeks at least, to get this light at 25% off. So at that point, it does make it a bit more attractive that you can get it at a discount. However, it might not always be available for everybody. And then at that point, yeah, you are paying $300 for a light. However, keep in mind that other 100-watt bi-color lights are costing roughly about the same amount of money. And a lot of those lights don't have a battery option to make it portable. So that is one of the selling features, is how small and slim and how easy it is to get this in weird, compact, awkward situations to light it up and do some really cool stuff. That is the attraction of this type of light. One other con of the CX100 is that the USB-C cable that it comes with on the standard kit is only like 2.5, 3 feet long, which if you were going to use that to kind of like supply power to the light while using it, it's a bit short in my opinion. So that's why I think getting the wall plug would be smarter if you're going to keep this plugged in for constant power. I think the biggest con that the X100 has going for it that the CX100 doesn't have is with the battery. A lot of people, since I made my original review of the X100, have stated that they've had issues with their batteries that they got sent with the light or that they purchased separately, because you can't buy it separately. I myself hadn't encountered any issues until literally yesterday. And it might have been user error, but now this battery is not able to charge. So that is something to keep in mind, is that these batteries, while they integrate really nicely with the light, they can sometimes be a bit of a challenge. I personally think the issue would be totally resolved is if you could have the battery plugged into the light, and when you have the wall plug plugged up into the light, that it would charge the battery at the same time. Just like it does on the CX100. It charges it, whereas this one, there's a little USB-C port, and that's how you have to charge it. And it's really easy to grab the wrong cable like I did and accidentally short it. So if you have concerns or issues with the detachable battery, I did try to find some solutions and workarounds in just the last day, where I plug in some other battery options, V-mount battery, NPF battery. However, the issue I had was I don't have anything that's rated for the voltage that this requires. It says here that the DC port needs 24 volts, which is quite high, and then the USB-C port is 20 volts. Both at 5 amps. So that does make it rather challenging to find anything to supply power in a handheld battery sort of way. So I've yet to quite figure that out with the things that I have laying around. I know that's not something everybody wants to hear, especially with the Pro option. And I don't know if the CX100 will ever do the same, because the way that you charge this battery is entirely different than how you charge the X100. I'm not entirely an engineering expert when it comes to all this. So obviously that's something for Zhiyun to figure out, I suppose. Just a bottom line all this, I would say both of these lights I enjoy for their form factor, even though yes, the X100 is definitely more pro-centric. It's geared towards people who need those details, has a bit better build quality and so on and so forth. It's still not without the issue with the batteries, obviously, but I still really enjoy it because the LCD screen, studio mode, and having app control are really important to me. If you find those are important to you, then I would say, yeah, get this light. Don't cheap out and get this one. However, this one I think is phenomenal for people who don't find themselves needing an app to control their lights. They're fine with eyeballing things or, you know, just using these numbers on the side to get it close enough. Like they don't need super precise settings. I think either way, they're both really nice lights and they're offering things that as filmmakers we're all looking for, which is form factors that allow us to take things with us easily. Right now I'm using the CX100 just pointed bare bulb at the lowest power. And it's got a really nice sort of fill light quality. See, here's off and here's on. I mean, it's great just as like a decent bounce light if you want to put a little light somewhere, just bouncing it off the ceiling. I mean, you can get a lot out of this just as a bounce or a fill light as well. Don't forget to get the discount on this light while it's still available. Code and links are in the description. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.